People generally go about learning the wrong ways. Empirical research into how we learn and remember shows that much of what we take for gospel about how to learn turns out to be largely wasted effort. Even college medical students whose main job is learning rely on study techniques that are far from optimal. At the same time, this field of research, which goes back 125 years but has been particularly fruitful in recent years, has yielded a body of insights that constitute a growing science of learning. Highly effective evidence-based strategies to replace less effective but widely accepted practices that are rooted in theory, lore, and intuition. But here's the catch. But there's a catch. The most effective learning strategies are not intuitive. This is a long excerpt, but this is a book that just this concept, this idea of learning, we talk a lot about. This is a book about what people can do for themselves right now in order to learn better and remember longer. We write for students and teachers, and of course, for all readers with whom effective learning is a high priority. For trainers in business, industry, and the military. For leaders of professional associations offering in-service training to their members, and for coaches. We also write for lifelong learners nearing middle age or older who want to hone their skills so as to stay in the game. While much remains to be known about learning and its neural underpinnings, a large body of research has yielded principles and practical strategies that can be put to work immediately at no cost and to great effect. How's it go, guys? Oz of Mayo, rhymes with KO, bigria.com. This is a book review, quantum book review, a one-page book review. This is like 10 pages I just read, right? This is 3-paragraph book review of, we do these book reviews of one page. This is about learning. People have been asking me to do these books about learning. This is one of the top things we study and focus now. It's all kinds of books about learning and how to best do it. This is a really important thing to understand, to learn, right? Because the better you learn, the better you can teach. And ultimately, you are at your highest aspiration. Something going on with my skin. Am I bleeding? I keep thinking, I keep thinking that you guys are so polite and respectful. It's so nice about my skin stuff. Working through it, just got to make sure we stay on top of it. This is the book, Make It Stick, The Science of Successful Learning. A lot of stuff here that's overlapping on some of our stuff. My one-sentence summary, how using new evidence-based study and learning habits can improve learning. Go to bigria.com, the number one channel for Indiana real estate. We're also building the world's largest organization of special needs business owner. We're creating the world's clearest instructions on how any human being can create a passive income of $30,000 a month. Check it out. It's a lot of great stuff there. So we've been studying this stuff a lot. Learning, the process of teaching and learning is important. This is one of several books I've been asked to read on this topic. Teaching is vital, right? You really got to get the best salespeople are always the best teachers, right? The best anything are ultimately teachers. And one of the things we focus on a lot here is, especially with our like cognitive delay students or students that have mental challenges or physical challenges of mental illness or things like that. We have to look at, first we have to get a frame, right? It's like the base of the cake. And one of the top things we have to figure out is how do we, instead of like, okay, let's learn math or business or models or whatever, it's like, how do you learn that stuff? That's what we put in them first. We teach them how to learn something and then we go into it. The best teachers are also the best learners, and teaching students how to learn is a power. This is something we spend a lot of time on. How do you digest? How do you put a skill, things that are in your head, how do you put them into somebody else's head? This is a big deal. There's something we talk about often called the learner's paradox or the curse of knowledge, where try this experiment. It's a famous experiment. I talked about this in the copywriting class, the happy birthday experiment. So tap out the happy birthday song. So tell someone, just ask them to tell you what song is this, and tap it out. That has tone, but tap it out on a desk. Don't hum it, but tap it out. And how many people do you think would get that? You think like 9 out of 10, right? This study has shown that it's 1 out of 40, and the numbers are terrible. We've had 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30, and even worse than 1 out of 40. And it's amazing because it's like, how are you not getting this? You're as you're talking to the person, right? But they won't get it. It's the curse of knowledge, where you've got something that's as obvious as anything in your head, right? But when you try to transmit that knowledge to somebody else, it isn't going to them. Today, we know from empirical research that practicing retrieval makes learning stick far better than re-exposure to the original material does. This is an interesting concept. A lot of people have been talking about this. How do you get an idea once someone learns it? How do you get them to remember it? Retrieval means they go back in their brain and they bring it back up, versus re-exposure, meaning they review it or they go over it again and again. This is a testing effect, also known as the retrieval practice effort. To be most effective, retrieval must be repeated again and again in spaced out sessions so that the recall, rather than becoming a mindless recitation, so that it's recalled rather than becoming mindless recitation, requires some cognitive effort. Repeated recall appears to help memory consolidate into a cohesive representation in the brain and to strengthen and multiply the neural routes by which the knowledge can be later retrieved. Neuroplasticity, as you learn something, the more you go back and bring it up in your brain actually reshapes itself based on what you learn. You can quickly hit the limit of what you can keep in your mind, however. If you practice elaboration, there's no known limit to how much you can learn. Elaboration is a process of giving new material meaning by expressing it in your own words and connecting it with what you already know. The more you explain, the better. The more you can explain about the way your new learning relates to your prior knowledge, the stronger your grasp of the new learning will be, and the more connections you create that will help you remember it later. We do this. This one paragraph is basically the entire reason why we have such high test scores now, and why we've been able to change so many of our heroes' academic performance. Because we take something. The only way you learn anything really is based on what you know already. So we take something you're familiar with and juxtapose something new to it, right? So think of learning like a map. And like if you ever look at a map at a new city, you don't know where anything is. You don't know where any streets are, there's the Walmart or there's the Kroger or whatever. You don't know what that means because you don't know what that means, right? But once you drive one place in that city, you're like, okay, I know where that Walmart is. Now from there I can get wherever, right? So you start to fill in the blanks on this map. It's not all blank, meaningless, just streets and rivers and roads, and right, it actually has meaning now. And the more things that you have, the more reference points you have, the easier it is to find a new location, because you could say, oh, it's between 10th and 11th or whatever. I know where that is. That's by the Walmart or whatever. You get what I'm saying? So the more things you learn, the easier it is to learn if you do it correctly. This idea of the retrieval is this is something we talk about a lot, not necessarily re-exposure. We do a lot of re-exposure and retrieval, but the top thing, what they're calling elaboration, basically explaining it in your own words. The more that what we've been studying focus on now is having people learn something and then attach emotion to it. And almost nothing does that more. I know people don't like when I say this, especially the academic types, than money, right? What can you do with money? This can change your life, especially with our heroes that are used to being told that they're not going to be able to do anything for their entire lives. Now all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I can get a new car. I can help my parents out. They have emotion behind that learning. The things they're learning, they can go out and practice in the real world, and it becomes totally different. How ably you can explain a text is an excellent cue for judging comprehension, because you must recall the salient points from memory, put them in your own words, and explain why they are significant, how they relate to the larger subject. This is exactly what we do. If you've ever been with our heroes and everything that we do, we go over a model and we have them explain the model and have them explain it to business owners. Having this real live testing is super important because everything becomes battle test. We are constantly talking about improving learning and application. The authors here, there are two are cognitive scientists. There's like 3 or 4 authors of this. Stress recall, they really talk about recall over review and re-exposure. We do both. The elaboration or teaching is used to solidify the new material in the student's mind. We do this a lot, like I just said. This approach should help one retain information and test better as understanding grows. So one of the best things we do is we take people who are struggling with it. Whenever let's say we have 20 students, one of them is doing really well at math or something, we have him help the other kids improve their skill with the math or with the whatever that he's picking up really quick. And by doing him helping other people, not only is he helping himself because he's getting better and he's getting better trained. The best way to remember something is to teach it, but he's also helping other people as well. Our approach follows algorithms and application, forces retrieval. So we always use algorithms, we always use application. So when we do this is the MIT approach. After introducing an idea, this is not has to do with the book, but just in case you're wondering. After we introduce an idea, we have obvious application, discovered application, and then we have unique application. So this is like, if you play a really good video game, they'll introduce like a hammer, like Mario Brothers, right? Super Mario Brothers 1, if everyone's familiar with it, right? That very first level, so much you learn by the first level, right? You learn which direction to go. Every time you're always going to go to the right. You also learn that you have to jump and you have to hit question marks for prizes and rewards, and you have bad guys that you have to stomp on, right? And then you understand that you have to jump through pits, although at first, if you miss, it's okay, but the second one, if you miss, you die. But they let you know this, there's so much information they're giving you. But then as the Marios get better, they give you like, okay, here's fireballs, okay, here's the wing, here's the suit, there's different tools that you've given. And at first, there's an obvious application. Here's the fireballs, go shoot them at whatever, right? But later on, the application is what's called discovered, meaning you figure out on your own, oh, I could do this if I get this. And then you have unique application. Ultimately, you do things that have not been done before. So whenever we introduce a model, we say, here's how all models work. They work with drawings, checklists, and scripts. And we go in that order when we come up with a model. So here's how a model works. And here's how to learn, how to prepare yourself to learn a model, like for business building for our heroes. And then the second thing we do is introduce an actual model. Here's a real model. Now, here's how you here's how you implement that model. Go out and do it like the lender agent model, right? An obvious application. Then we have a discovered application. They start thinking, you know what? I could introduce this to this business or that business. And now even though it's not unique because it has been done before, when you discover your own uses for that knowledge, it immediately fires totally different neurons. You have a much better neuroplasticity and you remember that idea much better because it's like, oh, I use the hammer on the bricks. I can use the hammer on these bad guys or whatever. You get what I'm saying? So it's discovered. But unique is really, that's where all the new models, all the stuff we invent on our team, everything that we do comes from this idea of you have a model, you know how to apply it in an obvious way. You've discovered ways on your own. Now you find unique ways, things nobody's thought of. That's how people always say, how do you guys come up with all this new shit all the time? This is how we do it, the exact process. Juxtaposition, we only learn by relating to what we already know. So the more you learn, the faster you'll know more stuff. The easier it is to learn more because you have more places on that map lit up, right? Better stories and emotion are the glue to remembering and applying knowledge fast and to doing it well. You've got to apply meaning to what you learn, right? We talk about like stories and being able to go and apply, especially when I realize this a lot when we work with people with cognitive delays, right? People who have real brain problems. How do you change the function of their brain, change the frequency of their thinking, but also change the functionality of their brain? This is how we do it, by firing different parts of their brain and adding emotion to it, adding stories to it. A lot of really cool stuff. This doesn't really have to do with the book, but just got like some of the stuff we spent a lot of time talking about, like how can we get people to learn better and quicker and apply stuff. Especially all of our stuff is real life. It's not like, oh, you're going to need this one day. No, you need this like later today when you're talking to somebody, right? So the quicker we can learn something and immediately apply it, the more amazing things we can do. Okay, finally, let's return to the old saw. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. It turns out there's more truth here than wit. Attitude counts for a lot. The studies of psychologist Carol Dweck, we read a lot of her stuff. We've talked about her a lot in the past. She's done a lot of great studies. Carol Dweck have gotten huge attention for showing just how big an impact one simple conviction can have on learning and performance. Doctors talk about this, the will to live, picture your body getting healthier. These things make a big difference. The belief that your level of intellectual ability is not fixed, that you can actually get smarter, but rests to a large degree in your own hands. Dweck's research has been triggered by her curiosity over why some people become helpless when they encounter challenges and fail at them, whereas others respond to failure by trying new strategies and redoubling their effort. She found that a fundamental difference between the two, I want to just understand how crazy this is. She's saying a challenge comes up, two people, same exact background, same everything. One of them quits, right? One of them redoubles, gets even crazier, goes nuts, right? What's the difference? She found that a fundamental difference between the two responses lies in how a person attributes their failure. Those who attribute failure to their own inability, I'm not intelligent, I'm a dummy, right? Become helpless. Those who interpret failure as a result of insufficient effort or an ineffective strategy dig deeper and try different approaches. My goodness, you could read that 1,000 times, man. So basically, it ain't my fault, right? If it's not your fault, then there's nothing to fix, nothing to change, you don't do anything. We talk a lot about the rats. This is one of my favorite studies ever. The rats that go swimming in that water, they put 50 rats in milk with the platform, 50 rats without the platform where they could rest. They see how far a rat can swim before it drowns. Basically, not very humane, but they put a platform. For half the rats got a platform. And then they took out the platform, put all the rats in the milk, right? The ones who saw the platform went on average twice as far. Their respiration, their circulation, their heart rate was actually, they were transformed. They were like mutated into more powerful rats. They had more endurance. Why? Because of the image of that platform. They had the optimism, and the optimism gave them more energy to go further. This is one of the most important things, that everything that we talk about, everything we teach, we have people that sometimes get down on themselves, and that's the most dangerous thing. You've got to have it in your head that I can do this. My brain, if your brain were a computer, it'd be the size of the Atlantic, right? There's nothing you can't do or can't understand. You can figure it out, especially if you take the right steps, do the right things, and just repetition, accountability, discipline, you enjoy the accumulation. You can do anything. Just that idea that you can do it, that you're just one step away, that you're right there, that you've got that platform coming. It can give you power to do amazing things. And it's those high frequency thoughts. When you first start to see yourself learn something you thought was important, or you learn something that you thought was difficult, and we see it in people. It's amazing. The power of just optimism and gratitude. You are at your highest when your thoughts are there. It's really cool stuff, man. So that was, wow, now we have the thing come up, the book, it came up later. That's the book review. Fix your thoughts, you fix your life. It's all about thought control.